Hi, welcome back to the farm. My name's Roz, also known as Passion Flower, and you'll find me here each week talking about my farming and creative life. It's a very windy day today. I think that we have rain and storms coming this afternoon. The sun is out at the moment, so it's actually not too cold in here. I've kind of got my sleeves pushed up, but I have put the fire on, so I need to keep a bit of an eye on that as we go along. Just because I think that it's the wind is quite cold, and my plan is to stay over here and do some work for most of the day today. So it'll be lovely to have that fire going nice and strong while I'm dyeing some yarn and doing some tidying and probably doing some knitting over here as well. I've been back into work full swing this week in my office job. Last week was a professional learning, getting back into the swing of it kind of week. So there were some structured programs and a little bit of work. This week is back into work. And so I haven't felt like I've spent a ton of time here on the farm. So when I've been getting home, I haven't really felt like doing all that much, but the afternoons have been nice. So I have gone for a few little walks now that the paddocks are not super, super wet. We are going to have to do a little bit of repair on our bridge, which always happens when we get flooding in our creek. And we're going to have to also do some repair on the bank of our dam. Well, no, actually the wall of the dam. So we had put in a bit of a wall over the summer with some clay to try and increase the level of the dam overall. And with all of this water that we had, and it gets filled from two dams that are higher up on our property, and it all flows down into this one, and just all of that happening actually burst that wall. It's higher and better than it was before, so it did kind of work, but we probably need to do a little bit more work to fix it moving forward as well. It's also starting to get lighter in the morning, which is nice. It is much easier to get up earlier in the morning when there is some daylight, and the sunrises have been really, really beautiful. So that's always good motivation to be up and going. We also moved the pet cows this week. Well, I guess moving them, or we moved them, is a bit of a loose term. Basically, we just opened up a gate and they came running to move themselves into the other space. So they were in one of our big paddocks, and we just opened the gate that leads into our old driveway area so that they can mow that for us. It's not an area that we can actually get a mower into. You'd use a whippersnipper during summer, or the cows. But over winter, it's grown slowly, and it was just time to get them in to do a little bit of tidying up for us. So they are enjoying that space as well, and they get to sit under the big oak and pine trees that are along the driveway. Now, this next bit could probably go in business as well as here in farm. So over the next few weeks, I might be talking about it in each of the different areas. But for now, I will talk about it in farm because it relates to the shed. And that is that I have ordered and taken delivery of a composting toilet for here at the shed. So, and it's something that I've been wanting to do and talking about for a really long time. And I kind of just procrastinated on it, couldn't make a decision about which one. Looked at it, sort of decided on what I wanted, and then didn't go through with it. Terrible procrastinator sometimes. So it's now here. And the plan is that I've got a tradesperson coming in the next few weeks that will be building a bathroom to create a proper toilet space with a vanity, so that we can have a toilet over here at the shed. Now that's sort of twofold. It is great to have a toilet over here for just when we are here doing a lot of work, if it's wet and rainy and we're sort of camped here for the day. It's also helpful if we've got tradespeople at the house or out here doing some work, and they can just use the bathroom here at the shed. I'm also over here a lot in terms of, doing office work and dyeing yarn. So it's great to not have to really disrupt your motivation to go back to the house to go to the bathroom and then come back here. So just in terms of making it a really usable space just day to day for us was one thing. The other thing is that when I started my little area over here in the shed, my plan was to have some small groups come for workshops to sit and knit, classes, that kind of thing. And the big stumbling block for that was that there was no bathroom here. You can't really have people around and then go, oh, just go walk back to the house and deal with my cats or my dog or whatever, and use my personal toilet. So I needed to get that sorted out here in this space. So my long-term vision was always to do that here in the shed, to be able to offer all that stuff. So this is now phase one, I guess. So we've marked out the spot. At the moment, we've got a beehive sitting where the toilet is going to go. I have the toilet now, so I'll be putting that together. And we've marked out where we want to do the walls and where the vanity will go, and we'll plumb that in so it will have running water. And it's a little bit exciting. So no progress really on a build or anything yet. As I said, I do have the toilet, and it will be happening over the next few weeks, hopefully. So as this progresses, I will talk a little bit more about it, and then I'll make plans for some, probably start with just inviting some friends over for a bit of a trial run in terms of using this space for like sit and knit, and maybe teaching them how to do some dyeing, things like that, and then build up to hopefully be able to offer that as a service as part of Passion Flower. That's why it's sort of like shed and farm life and business all combined into one. All right, I just went and put another log on the fire, so it's really cracking away now, which is great. Before I move on to business life, I will just talk about the shawl that I'm wearing today. I realized that I wear shawls all of the time for work, all of the time when I'm not here in the shed. And I've knit so many, and I don't think I've shown all that many here on the podcast. What I normally do is show off a jumper or a beanie. So I thought I'd wear a shawl today. This is the Moonraker shawl by Melanie Berg, and I've knit many of her shawls before. I actually finished this way back in 2015, and I wear it quite a lot. I really love the colors together. The light purple is from Dye by Hand Yarns, and it was a one-of-a-kind colorway. The light pink is Shibui Knits in Peony. The other two are both from Yarn versus Zombies, who no longer dyes, and it's in the Vampire base, which is a sparkle base, and it is the purple is called Peacock Purple Kimono, and the grey blue is called Melbourne Weather Forecast. So I think it's a really lovely combo. It's a nice shape. It wraps around lots of times, and by wearing it like this, it really shows off all of the detail of the shawl. So yeah, I think I'm going to try and show you a few more of my shawls, because I have many, many that I love and wear all the time. So I showed you my new dye powders last week and talked a little bit about that I was going to do a few dye experiments. So one of the things that I was asked to do by a customer was to match to a colorway that she had, and it's sort of a bluey silver grey. So I bought a silver grey to try and match it up. Now, as you can see, my first attempt here is not dark enough, and it's actually missing a little bit of like a blue purple kind of undertone. So this skein is going to end up being over dyed, and will probably, I've got another three, will probably be a one of a kind colorway that I'll bring to my next market. So I'm going to have another attempt at trying to match this. So even though it's a plain color, it's actually a lot of fun for me to think through how to create that color using a new dye powder. I've used the same dye powders basically since I started, so I kind of know how they react with each other, how to get darker and lighter tones, and sort of where I like to mix the powder to get the depth of shade that I like. So starting with a new powder that I haven't used before, I kind of needed to do a dry run, a first go to see what the color would come out like, and then I can play around. So I think I might increase the amount of powder that I mix into my base color, and then also add a little bit of another color just to make it a little bit more add depth to the color. So even though it seems like it's fairly plain, it's actually using a lot of my creative brain to figure that out. And I'm really enjoying the challenge of that. So another go at this today, and then I can show you my second attempt. The other dyeing that I did this past week was an idea for a Christmas colorway. I've sort of been looking at inspiration boards on, just Googling and on Pinterest for summer Christmas colors and Aussie bush Christmas. And I found some really nice palette examples, and also a couple of images from the same artist of like Aussie Christmas. So I sort of drew inspiration from those, and I threw some colors in the pot and had a really fun time trying a bit of a different technique for me to get the color and the way that I wanted it to look. So here it is in the hank, just out of the pot. So it's got pinks and purples and a green and some light blue, turquoise, gold. And I'll also put a photo of it rescanned so you can see what it looks like. I have begun to do some samples so that I can see what it looks like knit up. And I'm super happy with how it's looking so far. I've just cast off, although I haven't cut the yarn, so it's still attached. So here it is in the ball. And here is my first little sample. You can see I've sort of done just a little bit of a cuff and no like toe or heel or whatever, so that you can just get an idea of, if you're going to knit it as a sock, what it would look like. I decided I didn't want to knit socks for myself out of this. I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do one of my bloom squares, and then I'll probably knit a hat with the rest of it, so that at markets during summer I can probably deal with wearing a sort of a sock weight beanie to show off the colorway, rather than having mittens or a jumper, or having socks that no one's going to see because they'll be on my feet. So here is the colorway so far. I haven't actually come up with a name, but but it's sort of along that sort of Aussie bush Christmas kind of vibe, and I've got all of the images that have been my inspiration. Normally I would hide the color, and maybe do some teasers and a bit of a release, but I just felt like sharing it this year, and I mean, it won't be ready for a little while. I'll probably start selling it in September, October, probably, and I'll let you know when it's available. But I'm really happy that it turned out like just as I imagined it. So as it said, when you know your colors and you know how you mix things, and it's dyes that you've used many times before, and you can picture how they go together and how when they blend together what they're going to look like, as opposed to just being separate colors, you can really start to just, I know this sounds a bit funny, but just kind of throw dye in the pot, and it just kind of does what you think it's going to do most of the time. So yeah, I'm really happy with how this one's turned out. I just mentioned my bloom squares, and I just wanted to show you what they are. I knit samples of all of my colorways into the same pattern square, and then I block them out. Some of these have been sitting for a while, so they do kind of curl after a while. And when I have those colors on my stall, I bring the relevant square and I lay it out to decorate my table. And one day, and as you can see, this is only a small portion of the squares I have. There's a whole nother batch of them over in the tub from the last market I was at. One day these will become a blanket that I will sew together, and it'll be a really lovely remembrance of all of my colorways to look back on over time. So that's why I will do a square in this new colorway as well. So yeah, all of my samples. haven't done a ton of knitting this week, so I'll show you my works in progress or things that I've actually touched this week. Then I thought I'd talk a bit more in depth to you about my socks and the recipe that I use, because I always just sort of show my socks and I don't really talk about my numbers or my needle or anything like that. So I will talk about that in a minute. First, to my works in progress. This one is in, and I haven't been mentioning my bags. This one is in my creative garage bag, which is really lovely, nice and big with a drawstring, and it's a nice solid finish on the inside, so your needles don't poke through. Now I have started the Little Love. I showed you the swatch last week. I'm just trying to get it out without pulling it off the needles because there's a bit going on here at the moment. Hang on. It's stuck. Oh, goodness gracious. What's going on? Oh, hang on. That was a drama. Okay. So, this is what I've done so far, and it looks a little bit all over the place. I've got cables going everywhere, which is why I got so stuck in my bag. I need to get this bit done so that I have less cables going on. So, you start and you do one side, you do a provisional cast on and you cast on one side of this and you knit down that way, and then you go back and you knit this way, and then you pick up and cast on out either side. And now I've got to do some short rows, and this will become the back, I believe. Now I started, now you can tell I've got cables everywhere because I've got all these stitches on hold. I did the first section, and then I realized that my provisional cast on was really awful, and I ended up with horrible bumps across the top, and I picked up from the wrong side. Then I ripped it out again, redid it, much happier with the provisional cast on, and I ended up with a hole. So I had to rip back and forth a couple of times to fix it. And what I'd done is I think I'd picked up the wrong leg of the stitch when I was picking back up the provisional cast on side. So then, yeah, it's much better now. And there's it's like an alien or something. So I'll probably do some more work on that this afternoon while I'm sitting over here in the shed. Maybe we'll see. Just checking the fire. So that's my Little Love progress, and that's out of Fairfield Fins in the Logwood natural dyed purple colorway. Oh, I didn't tell you this bag either that I've got my my Christmas colorway in. This is an Alice in Wonderland bag, and it is by Mel's Stitch Handmade. There's a little tag there. I've got a couple of these bags, and they're perfect for socks. There's nothing on the inside. It's just a beautiful lining, and then there's a couple of pockets on the outside, so you've got places to keep things. So really love these. My socks are in just a plain is that like, what's it called? Canvas bag. Light canvas? I don't know. Anyway, I did a little bit of work on another dishcloth. Went to the pub on Thursday night with a group of knitting friends, and I just took this to work on because I can never concentrate on anything and always end up ripping back whatever I do if it's something special. So that was my Thursday night knitting. And I have been not really working on my socks. I've done a little bit. I'm up to the heel now of my second stripy sock. These are going to be super shorties, and the yarn is by Half Baked Hand Dyed, and the heels, toes and cuffs is from Melbourne City Dye Works. Thought that I would talk briefly, maybe not briefly, about my formula for how I knit my socks. There are a lot of sock patterns out there that give you specific stitch counts, and I have found like the recipe that helps me fit my socks best for me. And so that's the recipe that I use every single time now. So what I've done is I use the Fish Lips Kiss heel pattern, which is not just about a heel, it's about the whole construction of the sock, how far to increase for the toe, and then when to put in the heel. And I find that that has just worked perfectly for me. So basically, you make a template of your foot on a piece of cardboard, you do some measurements, you do a little bit of maths, nothing complicated, and then you get the spot where you need to increase out to for your toe, and then you get the spot where you need to put in your heel in terms of a length. So the width is just is a width, it's not a stitch count, and the length is just a length, not a row count. And I find that really great because that means you can switch between any weight of yarn, any size needles. You just need to get the fabric that you like, and then you can create a pair of socks. And you can get a friend, a family member to send you these particular measurements. And you are then able to create a pair of socks for them that will fit without them even having to try it on. And I've done this numerous times for people, and it works every single time. So I normally, for a 4-ply pair of socks, cast on 12 stitches. That works for me. I like the shape of the toe, but you can kind of experiment and you can come up with the own shape of your toe that you like. And I increase out until I get to the width of my foot just at my little toe. So sometimes that actually varies in stitch count because of the yarn that I'm using or the tension that I have at the time. And then I knit the foot. And I have discovered, and you can discover too, that when you place your sock on your arm, there'll be a spot where the heel needs to go. So I can now use my arm as my measuring stick for when I'm out and about. I don't need to have my sock template with me. I don't need to have a ruler. I don't need to count rows. All I need to do is know that when my sock gets from my crook of my elbow to this crease on my wrist, that is where my heel goes in. And then it is a short row heel, and it leaves like no gaps. It's really great. See there? No gaps. And then depending on how much yarn and what I feel like, I can then do my cuff to whatever length I like. This one comes to just above my ankle. If I'm doing a full size, like long pair of socks, I will normally knit the length of the leg the same length as the foot or down to the toe. And then I will do my ribbing to the same depth as my toe. And that just gives a nice little finish. This one is a little shorter because I wanted shorty socks. But in terms of proportion, I would normally do the cuff the same length as the toe. What is it? It's the same length as the toe. Yeah, sorry, I was looking at see, there's two pinks there. See, there's the light pink and the dark pink. So it is actually the same length as, or just slightly shorter, but it is almost the same length as the toe. So that's a very quick rundown of my sock formula. I don't rely on a stitch count or a stitch number. I just make it that width of my foot and then go from there. If I want to put a pattern on that requires a certain number of stitches, I'm aware of that number as I am doing my toe increases, and then I can kind of fudge the width to get the right number of stitches for the particular repeat. And then I will just then go and do my own. But most of my socks I will do as plain, just because that is my mindless travel anywhere, not have to refer to a pattern project rather than something that's complicated. But I do occasionally do some socks with patterns, and if I was to do that, that's how I would factor in doing my version or my recipe with the pattern that was provided, because I find that the standard stitch numbers for socks just don't fit my feet. So that's why I have done this method. Now, if you've got any questions, you can leave them for me. I may not have been terribly clear, and I was trying to compact a whole lot of things into a really short span of time without being too waffly or without going into a lot of detail, because obviously you should be buying the Fish Lips Kiss Heel pattern, but it is a lot of pages and it does look quite complicated. But when you actually sit down and go through the steps and make the socks, and it's often the case with a pattern, you will read the pattern and it seems really complicated, but if you just sat down and knit it, you'll find that it just sort of comes to you because it makes sense. So yeah, buy the Fish Lips Kiss Heel pattern, not sponsored, and I'm happy to answer any questions if you're not sure what you should be doing with your socks. Well, that's it for another week. Thanks for spending some time with me. If you're enjoying these videos, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I look forward to seeing you next week on the farm. Bye.